Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and we are coming back with the film journey. I've been gone for a little bit. I've been on some travels, but my first guest is my friend Brandon, BrandoCritic. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. It's Friday tomorrow. The week is almost over, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm happy you're here as well. I get the weekend off myself, so this is a first for me and quite some time. But yeah, no. For people who are new here or not new here, this is the film journey, and where we have a guest from the community, and we usually just talk about their journey with the medium itself and where it's led them to today. And there's all sorts of nice little fun things in between that. But before I jump into this, I know that you run two channels now because you just started BrandoCritic Live, correct?
Yeah, I literally just started that last night, and I was talking with another YouTuber, and he's like a full-time YouTuber, and he was looking at my channel, and he's like, you know what, dude, I feel like you could go some places, but here's my advice: get the live streams off the channel, because once you keep doing all of these live streams, then it won't necessarily know, YouTube won't know who to target the videos for. Like, are you doing reactions? Are you doing reviews? Are you doing live streams? So if you put that onto a separate channel, and like your more faithful followers will be able to, go on your live streams there, and, you can go on live anytime you're doing an edit or just, doing any housekeeping stuff with thumbnails or whatever, then they can go to that channel, but then your main channel will be solely for reviews, and that will help the YouTube algorithm. So I'm going to try that out, and I just started it literally last night.
Wow. Well, good luck with it. And I mean, I've seen a few of your live streams, the last one as well. I popped in a little bit on that. But yeah, on your main channel, I know you were saying, as you were just discussing it, but you've been doing like television reviews, movie reviews, kind of just hunting and haul videos, and then some shorts. You do anything to add to that?
I mean, I want to do, my main content is doing the reviews for the newer movies coming out. Once in a while, I'll throw in a first time reaction. I got big into those in the beginning of the pandemic, but I will admit, though, that while it is fun to constantly watch new movies, I find that doing those, it's a bitch to edit. Can I swear on this thing?
Yeah.
It's terrible. They're so monotonous to edit. And also, when I'm watching a movie by myself with no cameras around, I'm generally pretty silent. So whenever I'm, reacting to something, I feel like I have to say something. So then when you're silent, you're just filming yourself watching a movie. But if you're filming a reaction, you have to say something. But then that's when people go like, shut up and watch the movie. So it's a very hard medium to get into, because people are so particular, and it's like, oh, you didn't have the same reaction that I did. It's art. You're never going to have that. So I try to, keep those limited. Once in a while, maybe throw in a topic video where I like ask my viewers what they think of a certain topic, Disney movies and Tom Cruise. And then I do like the pickups. So like every month, if I get some more Blu-rays or 4Ks or even a VHS tape sometimes to add to the display behind me, sometimes I'll throw that in there as well. So that's my main content. And then once in a while, I'll put on a live just going, hey guys, let's hang out for a little bit. I'm doing some editing. I'm doing some thumbnail work, whatever the case may be. Let's hang out for a little bit. So that's on the new channel, but the main content are the new movie reviews.
Well, I mean, I'm excited to see more of that too, because I've been following you for a rather short time, but I've seen you around, of course, and I've noticed a lot of things. I remember one of the latest videos that I watched, besides obviously the live stream, and one I watched today of like a mail day that you had, was talking about that Untouchables Blu-ray.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
that was a lot of fun looking at that one. So
You mean this one right here?
Yeah, that one. I still need to pick it up. Actually, that's my favorite year of movies, 1987. So
1987. Gotcha.
Yeah.
What came out that year? Predator came out that
RoboCop.
year. RoboCop, yes.
The Princess Bride.
Princess Bride, yeah. 1987.
Yeah.
Did one of the Rocky movies come out that year?
I want to say Rocky 4?
Maybe. Full Metal Jacket, Over the Top.
Over the Top, yeah.
Running Man.
Oprah came out that year too.
Okay, gotcha. I'm just going up.
Adventures in Babysitting,
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon. Yeah. Well, that was a big year for Shane Black because he's in Predator. He wrote Monster Squad and directed Lethal Weapon.
And I'm a James Bond fan, so I'm seeing The Living Daylights. Was also 1987.
As am I. There's my.
Yeah, I actually have the same one. I don't know if you can see it. It's like on the corner. I don't know if
I see it. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, it's right there. Right, our Grogu's are right next to it.
So, oh yeah, that's funny.
That is funny. Yeah,
yeah.
That's good. What actually have you been watching lately? Anything in particular, like on disc or on streaming? Anything like that?
I wish I was watching more. It's funny. This week at my job has just been completely crazy, and it just happened to be that I was sick for like 2 weeks, and then I'm finally getting better, but I've been so behind on things. So I wish I had more time to watch things, but I did just watch Prey, the Predator prequel.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had to sign a contract to say that I can't say anything about it until the day before the movie. And then I was able to see Vengeance. I saw Vengeance in the theater, the new BJ Novak movie.
Yeah,
that one really surprised me. I'm shocked to know that a lot of other YouTube people that I know are very mixed on it, and I find that very crazy. I found it a little crazy how Don't Look Up was also very divisive, and I think that Vengeance kind of falls into that same category where it's very I don't want to say political, but it definitely touches on the social issues on the nose.
Yeah.
And I feel like some people definitely don't like that. I'm all for it though. Maybe it's because I'm not from America.
Maybe so.
Maybe that's the case. But those are the two movies I think I've watched recently. And then I guess before that, my girlfriend and I watched Princess Mononoke, the Studio Ghibli movie. I'd seen it before, but she loves those movies, and so we're like, let's watch that again. So that was probably the most recent movie I watched.
What did you think about it on rewatch?
I liked it a lot more because I remember watching it. It was maybe 5 years ago. It was the first real anime movie that I'd ever seen. Like I'd watched Pokemon as a kid, but I'd never seen like a full-on feature-length anime production. And what really threw me off was just the amount of violence and amount of scary imagery, because to me, animation equals children's stuff or family stuff. So very bright colors, very Disney, even though you have some dark imagery in Disney too. But you always see animation as happy ending, bright colors. And then when you see Princess Mononoke where someone's head's coming off and you're like, what in the world? So it was a bit of a hard movie to digest in my first watch, but watching it again, I'm like, there's a lot of Lord of the Rings vibes in this, going off to distant lands, lots of different clans and towns fighting with each other. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant movie.
But actually, that was my first. I watched anime growing up, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, all that Toonami stuff growing up. But that was one of the first films that I watched too as an anime film, and it blew my mind because I think I watched it maybe when I was like 12 or something like that.
Oh, gotcha.
So I was like, this is very violent. But I mean, at the time, of course, I was watching stuff like Gladiator and Braveheart and being like, I'm used to this, but not the cartoons, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit strange to see it in cartoon form when you're used to it being Dumbo, Bambi's mom, but you know what I mean.
Cut that.
Yeah.
But no, anime is cool. I'm glad that you were able to watch that again. All right, so for people who are used to this, this is going to be jumping into the first couple questions that I have for Brandon, and the first one that I always ask off with is, what are your earliest movie memories? What are your earliest movie memories?
It's funny. I think someone asked me this, and I don't necessarily know, like, I can't necessarily pinpoint when I started to fall in love with movies, but I remember distinctly my dad coming home from work in like 1998 with some VHS tapes. He's like, hey guys, just brought some VHS tapes home, and there was like Little Mermaid, Aladdin, like Dumbo, Bambi, like all those old Disney films. And I remember watching those. I must have been 3 years old at the time, but I also remember one of my friends was having a birthday party when we were both turning 5, and this was in the year 2000, and we were going to go see Dinosaur in the theater. And that was the first time I ever saw a movie in the theater. And I'm like, oh my God. And my mother was a bit worried about that. She didn't know if I was ready. So I actually went in with headphones because it's like, oh, it might be too loud. And then like, as soon as the movie started, I'm like, get these off. And I fell in love with it. So that, and then I think right after that, when we went home to his house, we watched like Toy Story 2 on VHS tape. So I think those would be my earliest memories with movies.
The Disney movies, and I like that the headphone story. I haven't heard something like that before.
I don't think I've actually ever told that story online, as a matter of fact. So yeah, that kind of brought it out for me too. Yeah, Dinosaur like, 2000.
I mean that opening scene is the extinction event, right? So or more.
Yeah, it's the egg that like travels around. It's in like the trailer, and then you see like all the lemurs and everything, and then that's when the extinction event happens. Maybe that's 5 or 10 minutes into the movie.
That's intense. So you're like, but yeah, take those earphones out and just jump right into it. That's awesome. Well, so I guess your dad, you said he brought some VHS tapes, right? Was he a collector, or was that more of like a rental thing? How was the family dynamic growing up with movies? Did you rent? Did you have a certain night of the week? Did you go to the theaters?
I think as a kid, like I didn't really start collecting anything until I got into like my into my teens, like my early teens. We had some VHS tapes to own, and I think my father had a quite big CD collection at the time. But it wasn't like, oh, this is rare, we got to get this. It's more like, oh, this is a good album, let's buy it and we'll listen to it in the car or whatever. But yeah, it was occasionally we'd have the family movie night, lots of trips to Blockbuster. I remember for a good solid couple of years, my sister and I, we played soccer, and my dad was a soccer player. So we were a big soccer family. But after every practice on Friday nights, stop by Blockbuster, get some Twizzlers, get a movie, go home, watch it. Occasionally you'll get a video game, play that on the weekend, and then, in the PS2 era. And then that would be like, that's the way that we watched movies. So the movies that, we would watch as a family and we kind of grew up with were Harry Potter. We were a big Harry Potter family. The first Spider-Man came out when I was 7. Pirates of the Caribbean came out when I was 8. And I remember seeing that movie in the theater and just being completely blown away.
It was a good time to be a kid at that time. Yeah.
Shrek we watched a lot on VHS. And then I got into Star Wars when I was about like 9. It took me a while, but I remember the prequels were coming out, but I guess my mother was definitely trying to shield me and my sister from like violent movies. Like we didn't watch Lord of the Rings when those were coming out. Star Wars was a bit more. I eventually started to watch it, but she was like, "Oh no, Revenge of the Sith is considered like the darkest, scariest one." I mean, I can understand how a kid might be scarred by the Anakin burning up scene, right? For a younger child,
cut off and limbs, volcanoes and stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff. So I don't think I was necessarily collecting back then, but then once I started to get an allowance, and then you start to get some money. Oh, well, I'm going to pick up a VHS tape here, pick up a VHS tape here, pick up a DVD here, and then eventually just started to grow. And same with video games too. Like I got into classic video games. So even though everyone else was playing PS3 and Xbox 360, I was buying old N64 games, trying to watch older films, getting into James Bond around the time when I was like, 11, 12 years old. So that's kind of my progression with movies. And then when I was a teenager starting to get my own money, that's when I started to really build the collection from there.
So did you get, since you were saying 64 games and you said Bond, I'm assuming you got GoldenEye.
Yeah, I got GoldenEye, but it's funny. I don't think I got GoldenEye until I was in my like mid-teens.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was because at the time, and nowadays they're so expensive, right? Like I got pretty lucky when I bought the console and Star Fox 64 for, I think it was $25 for the whole thing. And I thought that was pretty good. And then, someone from school was like, oh, here, just take my old games. So I got Super Mario 64 and I think a couple other ones like Kirby 64.
Right.
But I was looking around, and of course you have Mario Party, $60. I was able to get Mario Kart 64 for 20, and I'm like, oh, that's a bit much, because you can get these newer at the time, newer PS2, PS3, kind of that stage. Right. For the $5-10 range, but you're paying, 60, 70, $80 for the older games, and God knows how much they are now. But eventually I was able to get GoldenEye for about 15. I thought that was a pretty good deal.
That's a good deal. Yeah. No, that was a staple of my childhood growing up. And I mean, you were saying Bond, Pierce Brosnan was my Bond growing up, of course. And GoldenEye was definitely that catalyst. I got some of the VHS tapes, and my dad would watch them with me, and we would watch like the Roger Moore, like Man with the Golden Gun, and those are the goofier ones. And now, obviously, looking as an adult now, but Bond is so much fun to have early memories of. That's cool. So, who got you into Bond?
You know what? I don't think it was necessarily anyone in particular, but I remember like. My mom is a big thrift shopper, loves garage sales.
That was my dad.
I guess in Canada we have a place called Value Village, which I guess is like Goodwill. It's the same thing. So like I would always go there and look for all the VHS tapes and all the DVDs. And our little town had like a town-wide garage sale like every year. So like all the houses had everything out, and it was like this big event. And like the realtors would organize it, so they'd obviously sell all the houses. But as a kid, everyone's like, oh, well, do you guys have any movies, any video games? And then I saw Die Another Day for 10 cents. And I'm like, James Bond, I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to watch it. And that was the first Bond movie I ever saw on VHS for 10 cents. And I thought it was amazing.
10 cents, yeah. That's
little did I know Die Another Day is probably my least favorite out of all of them. But that's probably how I got into Bond.
Well, I mean, at least it stuck, right? At least
exactly.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I'm trying to think of what are some of the worst ones, and that's definitely, it ranks among them. So,
I mean, there's that. I'm not a big fan of. Oh God, there's other ones too.
Quantum is definitely the weakest Craig movie.
Yeah, I mean, some people really like Moonraker. Some people really like Diamonds Are Forever. I'm not a big fan of those ones.
I like Moonraker because of Jaws, and that's about it.
A View to a Kill is pretty bad. I'm not a big fan of that one.
Although it does have a killer Duran Duran song.
Yes, the song is one of the best, if not the best song.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's cool. 10 cent, Die Another Day.
Yeah, that's how I got into it.
So I guess morphing into that collection question, were you you started off with some VHSs and DVDs, right? When did you notice it becoming like a problem? Were you like in your teenage years, high school years? What was that stage like?
I don't know if it became a problem, but I definitely noticed that like as a teenager, I would buy things because I thought that they had value, even though I knew I probably wasn't going to play them. So like I bought a Sega Game Gear and a bunch of games for $40. Never touched the thing, right? Or there's this box set of these movies. I'm probably going to buy it because it's a box set. But I never ended up watching them. And I couldn't even tell you what those movies were, but like buying a Sega Game Gear or buying some old Super Nintendo games, because I'm like, well, it's a Super Nintendo game, so it's like it's an old one. I would say that I got into that a little bit when I was a teenager with video games, at least. But I would say that it got into a bit of a problem when I used to bartend when I was 22, and with all my tip money, it's non-taxable, right? There was a flea market in my town on Sunday mornings. So you're up all night on Saturday, just stay up, go to the thrift store, and then you come home with like 60 movies. But then eventually when you start buying doubles, when you think that you haven't actually bought it already. So I had like 3 copies of Chinatown. I'm like, oh, should probably start, making a log of these things. That's when I knew it was a problem. But recently I actually went through my collection and I'm like, okay, don't need this. And I actually kind of like trimmed the fat of it. And I mean, that was actually a really liberating experience, because now I feel like my collection are just movies that I really enjoy. There are still a bunch that I haven't actually seen yet, right. But once I start to get through those, if I don't like it, just sell it off. Like, I was hanging out with a buddy of mine a couple of weeks ago and we watched Men Who Stare at Goats, because I just had it on my shelf.
I remember
watched it and I'm like, yep, going in the sell pile. Collection shrinks, but there's less crap in my collection. because I value quality over quantity, but back in the day I valued quantity over quality.
Well, I mean, you bring up a good point because I mean, last year, well, during the pandemic, really,
Mhm.
like the beginning of it, I trimmed quite a bit of my collection, which obviously is some of it's gotten back, mainly because I've just been getting into different little things here and there. I'm just like, oh, well, I have different phases, right?
Yeah.
But it is really a cathartic experience,
Yeah.
being able to like just prioritize the stuff that you enjoy. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're at this moment,
Hmm.
and I hope you can go through the different roller coasters of that of trimming
Right.
that and stuff. But for like a second here, there I didn't know this is the first time this has actually happened, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So I'm gonna get it to like the 1 minute mark, and then we'll just cut it there, and then I'll send a new one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I this old link, I was an instructor at the university that I work at.
Okay.
But since COVID knocked it out, for some reason they had me on this Zoom link that lasted, unlimited time. So I think they finally trimmed the fat. So this is the first time I've noticed that. So
Gotcha.
just
Right
to
on.
let you know. But anyway, we'll get back in here.
Okay, cool.
Cool. All right. So, but like with where you're currently at now with films, did you notice a transition? Did you like upgrade your DVDs to Blu-rays and 4Ks? Like, have you just like shifted with the time, or I was going to say like with YouTube in particular, when did this collecting aspect kind of come to the platform?
Well, it's funny. I actually had a YouTube channel when I was like 14 doing like video game pickups. But when I had my YouTube channel, this YouTube channel in 2018, and I just wanted to share my thoughts on movies. And then when I wanted to try to get some more consistency with it, I'm thinking, well, do some do some movie hauls, do some movie pickup videos. But in terms of like upgrading, I upgraded to Blu-ray. I started to get more Blu-rays once I started to get my PS3 back in the day in like 2009. But even still, I wasn't like a big how do I say this? Like a film quality snob. Like I still say this to this day. I would rather watch a movie that I love on VHS than a movie I hate on 4K. So to me, it's like, well, for my setup right now, DVD works just great. Blu-ray obviously looks pretty good, but for my setup, DVD's just fine. Obviously, once I got into the bigger HD TVs, then Blu-ray started to be the main focus. And I'm thinking, oh my God, 4K, is that the case now? But when I started to partner with my the other company, Movie Scene Canada, and they started to get more 4Ks, and I'm like, okay, well, could you do some videos on this stuff? I go, okay, well, I guess I got to upgrade to a 4K TV. If I'm going to be reviewing all these movies in the pandemic anyway, it's going to be a tax write-off anyway because it's a business purchase. And that's when I'm like, okay, do I have to upgrade everything to 4K now? I was getting kind of worried, but I was finding out that you don't necessarily have to upgrade everything to 4K because not everything has a really good transfer. And I got into the whole underworld of what's native 4K and what's HDR10 and Dolby Atmos, and even still I'm like, okay, does it look good? Does it sound good? Yes, good. That's all I care about. I don't necessarily need to know the codec and the coloring and the whatever the case may be. But certain movies I definitely was like, okay, I'll upgrade from the Blu-ray to 4K. Just looking here, like Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, Lord of the Rings, The Dark Knight, like the big ones. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll dish in that extra cash to get the highest quality possible.
That's fair. I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, honestly, with 4K, it wasn't until probably a year and a half ago. I mean, I had a
Hmm.
couple 4K things that I got, maybe like steel books that were like exclusives, like, oh, this is really a cool cover, but I didn't have a 4K player.
Yeah.
And I was pretty content with Blu-ray. And then from there, slowly started putting out more things like, I know Scream Factory put out the Halloweens on 4K.
Yeah.
And just kind of like that kind of just like started clicking into my head. I was like, oh, like there's some quality 4Ks coming out, and like Jaws on 4K. It's like oh, this is actually, and I always I wasn't doing research with Blu-rays as much, but with 4Ks I decided to do more research every single time. It's like, is this worth
me too,
or like worth buying? And I always waited for everyone else to talk about it before I bought it. So but yeah, it's weird how it's the market now has almost become like 4K has finally made its mark.
Yeah, and I say this sometimes to some collectors, and they get kind of like blasphemy for me saying this, but I'm like, well, the reason why so many people like, you know, don't necessarily want to buy physical media anymore is because of the convenience of streaming, and the quality jump from VHS to DVD was huge.
Oh yeah,
the jump from DVD to Blu-ray was
pretty
big, but it wasn't as big. And then the jump from Blu-ray to 4K, while we notice it because we're film buffs and we're film nerds, but the jump has progressively gotten smaller. And you could make the argument with graphics too. Like the graphic upgrade from like N64 to GameCube was very big. GameCube to I guess, well, don't use Nintendo, that's a bad example because they didn't go to HD, but you know what I mean. PS1, PS2, PS3. Right. I would say that, you know, you do see improvements, but the level of improvement I don't think as substantial as it was back in like the analog to digital. So now, especially with the convenience of streaming and people who don't want to dish out all the money for all these movies, I completely understand it. But my sister ran into this problem. She was sick at home and she wanted to watch Mamma Mia, and she looked for it on Netflix, wasn't there. Amazon Prime wasn't there. Disney Plus wasn't there. Crave, which is the Canadian version of HBO Max, wasn't there. But she's like, thank God I had it on Blu-ray. She doesn't have many, but she had it on Blu-ray. So it's like, and that's my philosophy, is that once you buy it, you own it. And you don't have to think, oh, did they take this down? Is my server gone? It's like, if you have an internet connection and a TV and a player, you have that movie.
Exactly. And I echo those exact thoughts. I mean, that's the thing, is like that quality jump is minute. And obviously, since we like this niche thing, right? This collector thing, a lot of us are just you know, and a lot of us still stream. That's the thing, is like I mean, I stream all the time. You know, because there's a lot of things that are only available on streaming and vice versa. All right, so well, it's interesting hearing some of those, the collecting habits, but I do want to kind of jump into some of I guess some of your favorite films in general. Like what were some of your favorite films growing up, and like what are some of your favorite films now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like when you get into like your top 5 of all time, I was talking about this with someone from work because we were talking about how much we love Top Gun Maverick. And I said, you know, like Top Gun Maverick is one of the best movies I've ever seen. And I said, but I don't think I can put it as number 1, because I know that a lot of people will just say, oh, it's my favorite movie ever. Favorite movie ever. Yeah. But I think that, you know, for it to be your favorite movie of all time, it's got to be personal, and it has to have some sort of subjectivity to it. Like, no film opinion is 100% objective. It doesn't exist, because we are human beings and we experience art through our own emotions, through our own thoughts, through our own past experiences. That's how we look at movies. But I would say my favorite film of all time is the first Pirates of the Caribbean film. I can make an argument that there are better films out there, but it's the film I enjoy watching the most.
Yes.
The first Star Wars is definitely up there. And I got to go first Star Wars as in A New Hope. Right. You know, Raiders of the Lost Ark was up there for a very long time. I feel like it's kind of slipped a little bit because movies like Braveheart definitely got up there. Casino Royale is amazing.
That's my favorite one, probably.
Yeah, it's a normie pick, but it's still so good. You know what? Actually, I wrote down a list, like kind of like a draft of like favorite movies of all time, just to kind of see. Yeah, so like Braveheart, Forrest Gump is up there. Harry Potter, I would maybe go. And just for a pure nostalgia factor, like Chamber of Secrets. Nice. I love Spider-Man 2. One that recently got on that list is The Rocketeer, 1991.
Yeah.
Amazing movie. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
You know, like if I have to go with an MCU one to kind of get a normie pick in there, then Infinity War. But you know, Terminator 2, Gladiator, E.T., Field of Dreams, you know, The Matrix, Jerry Maguire, The Karate Kid, you know, a lot of the Hollywood classics. You know, I'm into schmaltz, the Spielberg, Zemeckis, schmaltz. I'm definitely into that. You know, I can appreciate the David Finchers and the Tarantinos and the Scorseses and the Francis Ford Coppola's and there was somebody else I was going to say, Stanley Kubrick's of the world. But I don't know, just the definite hero's journey, the John Williams music, that's what I gravitate towards. So those are the movies that really speak to me. So a movie like Top Gun Maverick this year really spoke to me. You know, I find it funny that in a world just where we have so many superhero movies, I don't get those superhero chills anymore, but I got them in Top Gun, where I'm just like clenching my fists and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm fanboying out. And I feel like, you know, with all the Marvel and DC content, I'm not getting that anymore because I don't know, maybe it's a bit oversaturated.
It's oversaturated. Yeah.
But those would be like my favorite movies, like that kind of style.
Yeah, no, I like that. I'm glad that I just noticed the Pirates of the Caribbean shirt you're wearing too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, just thinking about I mean that movie in particular, I actually had a portable DVD player, a family one that the whole family had, and I actually scratched the hell out of my DVD copy of Pirates, like Curse of the Black Pearl, because it had so much special features on it.
Yeah.
And it just, you know, it was all Hans Zimmer discussion and behind the scenes stuff. And I was just like, I just couldn't get enough of it. But yeah, going back to that, plus also recently the Maverick discussion, man, well, yeah, I was just telling my best friend the other day, actually, that might be one of the best films. I mean, I know it's 2 years into the decade, but I was going to say the last 10 years. I was going to say it's probably definitely one of the best films to come out. Yeah, so it's an incredible film. I just wish my audience was a little bit better. Unfortunately, I had a bunch of. I went at like 1 PM on like a Thursday,
right?
And it's just a bunch of. And it's the summer, right? So there's a bunch of kids, and then there's all their grandparents.
Oh yeah.
And the grandparents were the ones, you know, just like pointing to the screen, you know, saying, it's like, oh my gosh, that's Iceman. And it's just like, yes, we see. He's like, yes, we know who that is. Like, stop. Like there's no kid. Yeah, I don't know. It was just, you know.
I gotta say though, that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves is when people make excessive amount of noise in a movie theater.
It's the worst.
And I'm just like, internalize. Exactly. I'm excited too. You know, you might get like, you know, some laughs. That's totally fine.
Or like a gap or something.
When people are like just like screaming and cheering and it turns into like a zoo, or it turns into like a concert where people are like just jumping around, they have their phones out. I'm like, what is this? I never got that, because I'm like, well, you're not cheering for the filmmakers. The filmmakers aren't back there. You know, no one can hear you except for the projectionist, right? It's, I don't know. The inability to internalize is probably my biggest pet peeve in the movie going experience.
It's honestly kind of, I that's why I try to go at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because usually there's a movie there, but of course I chose one of the biggest movies of the summer. There's gonna be people there.
Yeah, and a few claps I'm fine with, like a woo.
Yeah,
that's fine. You know, it's a little bit of excitement, and you're with a bunch of people, totally cool. But like when you're just, you know, oh, that's Tom Cruise. He was a big star in the 80s. You know, the 80s before you were. Shut up.
Internalize. Yeah. I just saw Nope last night. And there was somebody, luckily they only did it once, but you know, so that movie, you've seen the movie, right?
I haven't actually. That's the one, like that's the thing. I was looking at my diary on Letterboxd. I'm like, I haven't seen a movie, like it's been a week in between movies just because I've just been so busy. It's been insane. So yeah, I wanted to see Nope, but there was no press screening, and just I haven't had a day free to watch it yet.
Well, it's good. I mean, it's definitely different, but what the movie's kind of divided into chapters, right? And it has like a sequence where it will say like just
chapter 1, chapter 2,
chapter 2. Yeah. And then there's this lady sitting next to me, like reading them. I'm like, stop. like I know nothing's going on, but like, why are you reading it out loud? But anyway, I don't want to get into a fun rant here. But those are great films you chose. I like I've seen all those films. I think maybe except for one, I haven't seen all of Jerry Maguire, which is crazy.
Okay,
I know, but
it's a good one. It's a good one to watch on a date. It's definitely one for the feels.
Yeah, I do.
It's good. It's good.
I cry all the time, so that totally works. What about favorite actors, or do you have any favorite actors or actresses just from any of those films, or anyone in particular?
I always say I have the two Toms, Hanks and Cruise. Can never go wrong. Tom Hanks, obviously you got Toy Story, movie that I adored as a child. Forrest Gump, Saving Private Ryan, Saving Mr. Banks is a very underrated one that not many people talk about. It is very fantastic. Of course, then you have Captain Phillips. You have Philadelphia. I haven't seen The Green Mile yet. That's one that I'm very embarrassed I haven't seen yet.
Get to it.
God, I'm blanking on his movies because there's so many of them. Catch Me If You Can. And it's weird. Elvis, the new Elvis movie. I think it's the first one where I'm like, you know what? Tom Hanks didn't need to be in that. It could have been anybody. It's not like I've
heard the same exact sentiment from my friends. They were saying that was the worst part of Elvis was Hanks. Was interesting.
Yeah, and it's like Tom Hanks plays the protagonist. He is the good guy in movies. Turner and Hooch, Bachelor Party, no matter what kind of movie it is, he's the good guy, right? And it's just like some actors are better played as the villains, right? Like Ray Fiennes, Anthony Hopkins can do that as very, very well. Robert De Niro. But Tom Hanks, to me, he is the protagonist, like Tom Cruise as well. He hasn't really played the villain too much. Like I guess Interview with the Vampire, Collateral are like his big ones. But he's never been like a Bond villain or a superhero villain or anything. Like he is.
Tropic Thunder, he's kind of a villain.
Yeah, I guess so. That's the one outlier. But Tom Cruise, Minority Report, Mission Impossible, Jerry Maguire, Vanilla Sky, which is a movie that I both love and hate at the same time with a passion. You have like you said, Collateral, Top Gun Maverick, Risky Business. Like I would say that Tom Cruise is the only actor other than maybe The Rock where his movies are their own genre. Let's go see a Tom Cruise movie. Let's go see a Dwayne The Rock Johnson movie. Like they're their own kind of genre. Right. I guess you can make that argument for like, the De Niros and the Pacinos. But I like Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, I like those two. I like Leo. Of course, you like the classics, the De Niros, the Pacinos. For actresses, I love Emma Thompson. I think she's fantastic. Cate Blanchett, I think, is wonderful. Margot Robbie. If you ever have a movie where it's like you see someone that's attractive and it makes you angry, Margot Robbie. Lily James is another one. And of course, like it's a normie pick, but Meryl Streep. She's the GOAT. She's fantastic. So those would be my favorite actors and actresses.
Those are all great choices. And I have seen all of them in movies. So
yeah,
didn't have to pick Jerry Maguire out of that where I'm like, I haven't seen that one. So
yeah,
that's awesome. What about directors? Do you have any favorite directors that you have in particular?
Yeah, like my normie pick would be Spielberg, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost, or Raiders of the Lost Ark, same thing. Jurassic Park, Private Ryan, all those things. Even Ready Player One, I thought he did fantastic. West Side Story was amazing.
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah.
I mean, I have a soft spot for George Lucas. Yes, he made the prequels, I know, but that he made a movie that is so important to my love of movies. So you got to put George Lucas on there. Like you got to go with the film school answers too, like the Tarantinos, the Scorseses, Kubrick. I do like Kubrick quite a bit. But it's weird. There's no like actor or director that I will necessarily go into their filmography and watch absolutely everything. Like I gotta do it from this to this to this to this to this, because there are still some Tom Cruise movies that I haven't seen. There are still some Spielberg movies that I haven't seen yet. It's similar to like how I listen to music, where it's not necessarily via just artist and then album. It's just throw any song that I like into a giant pool and then I'll watch them. So it's similar to that, but yeah, Spielberg, I guess Zemeckis is on there. Matthew Vaughn, Antoine Fuqua, Peter Jackson, just because of Lord of the Rings alone. Chris Columbus. De Palma's okay. I do like Paul Verhoeven. I like him a lot. Yeah. RoboCop, Total Recall, Starship Troopers. I know a lot of people hate Showgirls. I think it's actually rather fantastic. It's bizarre.
It's gotten such a critical reevaluation, I think, over the last few years. A lot of people enjoy it a lot more than originally when it came out.
Oh, it's a weird one though.
Yeah,
it's a weird movie. But Paul Verhoeven too is fantastic.
Yeah, I love Paul Verhoeven. Actually, I got Spetters. I don't know if you've heard of that film. One of his earlier films when I was over in the UK, actually, that was one of the recommendations from one of my friends. It's a BFI release. So
okay, cool.
Nice Region B release. But
gotcha.
Yeah. But I need to watch more Verhoeven, honestly, because I mean, like you were saying, kind of just echoing what you were talking about with each of those directors. I have moments where I'll like watch a chunk of a director's work. Like I'll have like on my channel, I've had like spotlight series where I've focused on a director like Hitchcock. It's a really great example because Hitchcock has so many films, right? And most people have not seen everything he's done. Like earlier this year, I watched a huge chunk of his silent movies that he made. So just, little bits and pieces, that's the cool thing about this whole journey is like, we like just watching movies and discovering things and rewatching thing and having these different, moments with these different directors or actors. Right. So that's what's fun about it.
And it's funny how certain people don't necessarily understand that. Like when I did a video on Hook, and I said, oh, Spielberg's my favorite director, I'm going to watch Hook. And they say, how can he be your favorite if you haven't seen it? You know what I mean? It's like, well, do you have to watch an entire person's filmography just to claim that they're your favorite? It's like, well, out of the ones I have watched, he is my favorite. That's why I'm watching this one. You know what I mean? So it's funny how certain people have different opinions on that. But yeah, gatekeeping is like, man, I never understood the whole notion of gatekeeping. I think when people get into that, that's when you can tell that their lives are just ridden with anxiety and fear that no one else can like their thing. That's my thing. Even though we're talking about, movies generally made for children, you know what I mean? Or like whatever the case may be. Right. So, and that's why I never really get upset when people disagree with me. And I go, okay, that's great. You like this movie? Great. Am I going to be upset that some random guy, some random Joe Schmo from Orlando doesn't like a movie that I love? Probably not. My bed's no longer gone. There's no food in my fridge. Like my life doesn't change because of this, right? Some people think that it does, and thus gatekeeping, right?
Yeah. Well, I've dealt with that a lot in the music realm because I used to work at a record store, and I definitely in my 20s I gatekeep a little bit on
Right.
some genres just because of my background, but
Yeah.
with movies, luckily I'm an open book.
Right.
I've had my moments where it's just like I just do pure Criterion things, right? Or
Right.
but then I'm like thinking is like no, like I can I can watch Showgirls or
Hmm.
Troll 2 or The Room or something really dumb that like
Yeah.
we all enjoy and just have a good time. Like Billy Madison's one of my favorite movies of all time, and
Right.
I always joke around that with a lot of my friends because like I would put that in like a top 100 list. It's like you put Billy Madison in the top 100, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
for
It's
me,
just
it is.
it's just pure enjoyment. And like that's the thing too, is when you rank certain movies, and that's why ranking is so arbitrary, because it's all based on your own personal opinion, where it's like, well, you know, maybe Braveheart is like my third highest favorite movie, whatever, but it's like maybe I want to watch Office Space instead. That movie's hilarious. It's an hour and a half. It's great for what kind of movie it is. Maybe like American Pie. I'm just going off comedies that I love. Forgetting Sarah Marshall is hilarious. Hot Fuzz, like that movie is great. Maybe I would rather watch that than a 3 hour epic with lots of blood, and it's very emotional. And that's the thing too. It's art, right? So it depends on the mood that you're in. So that's why ratings to me, like I haven't made like an official top 10 list because it will always change.
Yeah, it's too fluid.
Yeah, it's too fluid.
Um, Going back to thinking about those directors and actors, if there could be one director that you would choose to be in a film with, either as an extra, a main, somebody in the background, just someone there, who would you choose to work with or be in their picture?
I could be in a certain person's movie.
Yes.
It's funny. I'm just looking at my shelf and I see The Dark Knight, and I noticed that I didn't say Christopher Nolan. I feel like some people are going to get really upset by that because I think that Christopher Nolan has the most dedicated fan base out of any director working today.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. You know what? As much as I love Spielberg, I feel like I want to have like just one random scene in a Tarantino movie where I say something really funky and random, and like someone shoots me or something, or I shoot someone else, like just some random store clerk going, "Hey man, you got that deal on vanilla milk?" or like something just really weird. I feel like that'd be pretty fun to be in a Tarantino movie just for like one or two lines. I interact with the character, like maybe have like a punchline to a joke, and then like I just pull out a gun and just start shooting people and I die. I don't know, just go crazy with it.
Yeah, vanilla milk everywhere. Yeah.
Like sure, I'm just thinking of like the milk to go flavors. Right.
Yeah, no, yeah, I like it though. I mean, that's how random a lot of that stuff is, and I mean, Tarantino in particular will just throw in things that, like, like Pulp Fiction's like talking about a Royale with cheese. Like, why are you going on this rant about this cheeseburger? But
yeah, it's like how Jonah Hill showed up in Django Unchained, or Channing Tatum showed up in Hateful Eight, like a role like that, where it's like it's not a role, but it's like, oh look, there's a famous person in that movie. Kind of have one of those parts.
That's fun.
Yeah. So, or just like some guy working at the video store, because of course Tarantino and his past. So you want to do the 2-for-1 deal? We got this on special in some like stupid movie. Like, oh, it's good, man. Trust me. Or I don't know. I'm just
and then
spitballing
here. Something stupid or silly or just light. That would be a lot of fun though, and just being a fly on the wall and something like that, especially for Tarantino. Now, the hardest question I like to ask is, if your life was a movie, what would the title be?
So
far,
what would the title be? I've heard the one. It's like, oh, who would play you? What would the title be?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
What would the title be? I mean, like, I mean, I feel like a lot of people who like nerdy things were ridiculed for it in high school and in elementary school, because of course it was unique, it was different, it showed passion. Oh, can't do that. You got to be like, oh, it's cool, I guess. So maybe like, oh, it's cringeworthy, but like a like Passion Unleashed or something, because like as much as I love movies, I also have a lot of love for music. I'm a big music guy. I also love hockey. I'm a huge sports guy. And it's funny. My best friend's ex-girlfriend once told me, and I never forgot this. She said, "You know what, Brandon? You love life. You just want to live as much life as you can." And I think she was a bit drunk, but
Yeah,
I never I never forgot that. I never forgot that. So I said, well, it's like I don't just like stuff, I really like stuff. So it's like I really like this. I really like this. I really like this. I don't have like I might get into this. No, it's like I like this.
Yeah.
I like this. So, and I hid that for a long time. Maybe just because of the fear of being ridiculed or bullied. And then, after I played in jazz for a long time, and then going to film school, and it kind of just like evolved. So maybe Passion Unleashed sounds just like a really shitty video game, but who knows? Maybe I'll go with Passion Unleashed.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like it because it rings true to me too. I feel like a lot of people in this space in particular have this weird, like you're in it all, you're all in it, on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like regular people who show up and watch our videos and stuff. We are,
Yeah.
a lot of us are like all in on certain or many different things that we enjoy. Like you bring up music. That's my 1 and 2 is movies and music. Those are like my two biggest for me. But I don't necessarily talk about music on the channel very often. But yeah, it's like I am all in on it, and I do like this drunken statement. That might have been said that way, but it sounds very apt, and I think it based on just having a conversation like this with you, I can see it being true. So Passion Unleashed. Very good, very good schlocky title for the limited time I gave you to come up with the title.
Yeah, I was surprised. I feel like a lot of people, I don't know. I feel like people would be like, I don't know. Go on to the next question because it makes them uncomfortable or something. But it's like, I feel like people, if they really thought about it, and just allowed those emotions of all their all their life's moments kind of just resonate there, I think that people could do it. But I'm assuming that people are like, I don't know. Next.
Sometimes I have to usually edit a little bit out of it and just wait for them to come up with something. But that's always the fun one. But yeah, they come up with something usually. But some people are like, maybe. I haven't even thought about it, so don't return the favor. So don't. I guess coming up with all this and thinking about that very passion, these passions in general, how has this medium itself really just changed your worldview or your outlook on life?
It definitely changed my view to go, you know what? You really have to put yourself out there, be yourself. But, I'm actually a big Bill Maher fan. And I know he's a political pundit and he's a comedian, so he definitely rubs people the wrong way depending on where you sit on the political spectrum. But he said something very profound, and I think it definitely comes true with my channel and what I've been doing. And he goes, you know what? You cannot be liked by everyone. If you are liked by everyone, then you've never told the truth before. If you tell the truth, if you are 100% honest, some people are just going to hate you for it. And so when, even if we're talking about something as arbitrary as movies, right? Like I can understand if you're talking about politics, like that's going to hit home for some people, definitely, no matter where you are in the world. But we're talking about like, I think Phantom Menace is the best Star Wars prequel. It's an opinion, right? But then people will, like we talked about gatekeeping, like, what, you think the Phantom Menace is the best? Like keyboard warriors, right? Yeah. So it definitely, thickens your skin a little bit, but it also, makes you more in tune with yourself to go like, no, I know what I am. I know who I am. I know what I think. It doesn't necessarily matter what these people think. So your mental clarity of how emotions and thoughts, I don't want to use the word trigger, but affect your everyday life based on all of these people, all these different interactions online. It also taught me something about consistency, because having a channel for so long, you have to be consistent. And also, like, it also taught me a bit about jealousy and a bit about envy, because when, like, I'm doing all this work for all these videos, and then, a video might not take off, and then someone else makes the same review and it just takes off. They get all these subscribers, and some people are not so humble about it. Some people are and some people aren't. And so then that's like, oh, well, then why did they get this? And so I learned more about how jealousy and envy works as well, and how toxic those emotions can be. I mean, we all feel them because we're human beings, but learning how that doesn't necessarily have to do with you. Don't have to take it personally. Same with, negative comments online. You don't have to take those personally. And it also has opened me up to so many more movies out there, because, sometimes movies are just there to, entertain someone for 2 hours and just shove popcorn in their face. Like, we had movies like The Lost City this year, or Chippendales Rescue Rangers. But then you have a movie like Vengeance, right? Or even a movie like The Batman, that sometimes movies feel like they have to say something. It's like you are watching a film, but then you also have to watch some products as well. Cough, cough, Marvel. It's the easy one. But yeah, I would say, yeah, for life, definitely being more comfortable with being who you are. And again, another quote that I heard, which kind of ties into it, is you can be the brightest, juiciest, biggest, ripest peach on the tree, but some people just don't like peaches. Don't worry about it. So I would say those would be the biggest life lessons I've learned from YouTube.
Well, that's I mean, I always have a hard time. I echo this all the time. I always have a hard time coming up with what I say after that.
Yeah.
But I like that last quote quite a bit. Yeah, you definitely bring up some stuff, especially just being on this platform in general. These are lessons you have to kind of learn, but also everyone's at different stages, so it's good to learn those lessons and hear those words, right? So I hope that people who are watching this, who are also content creators, or people who are ever like thinking about potentially becoming content creators, or anything along those lines, or if they put themselves out there through their art or through their music, or however you do it, like you said, be yourself. I think that's a really good message. So
yeah, I gotta add to that real quick though, because it's like, when you be yourself and you get out there, it's what do you want to get out of it? Because once I started to, and it's easier said than done, but once you do it because you love it, and what you get out of it is the fact that you get to make content if that's what you really want to do. But I know a lot of people, and I've been in stages of this, where it's like, I will only make videos because I know that they might get more subscribers, or they might get the higher view counts. And it's the external validation, then it's the ego boosting, it's the, oh, I got maybe a bit more money from this video as opposed to this video, but I chugged away 7 hours of my life and I hated every minute of it, but I may have gotten an extra $5 from that video than from that video. And once you get into that realm, then you will almost never be satisfied, because then it's based on external values, and it's based on external things that you have no control over. But once you start doing it because you're passionate about it, and it's like, well, I want to talk about this movie because I really love it, people can sense that. People can sense when you're just faking it. And like, one movie I watched and I did a review for was The Sound of Music, one of my favorites as a kid. You could tell though that I was really passionate about it, and that video took off. Whereas you can tell that a movie that I'm not passionate about, where I'm like, okay, guys, I'm watching this because you guys wanted me to, but I didn't want to. But, oh, why are you so depressed? You know what I mean? Like, people can tell. So I would say do it because you love it. Don't do it because of clout or validation.
And that's the line I've been treading quite a bit, with my channel over the last five and a half years.
It's tough, man. It's tough.
I try to definitely go the route of the things that I want to do, right.
Yeah.
But it's tough sometimes because that's not where you get the views sometimes.
Yeah.
As long as you have a nice balance and kind of if it sits with yourself, yeah, and you care about it, that's what matters. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day.
Um, I guess thinking about this all together, do you have anything else you want to add to the audience, or anything you want to talk about?
Not necessarily. But I will say though that I think once you get out there, just know that you will be exposed to a lot of people. You're going to meet some people who really genuinely love your content and are going to be with you every step of the way. You're going to meet some people who genuinely hate your content and might just click off within the first 10 seconds, or will stick around with you, every single video to tell you how much they hate your content. And people have asked me how to deal with those kinds of people, because you will get them. Here's another quote for you. I'm going to drop this bombshell. Why does a dog bark? Why does a dog bite? They do that because they feel afraid, they feel threatened, and they don't feel like they're at a place where they feel content. So by you making a movie or a movie review or a reaction video or whatever, and it rubs someone the wrong way so much that they feel the need to leave a really nasty comment, just know that they have nothing else going on with their lives. So I would say don't take it personally. But if someone is willing to give you a compliment, then take that to heart, because I learned this when I was a manager at McDonald's. I learned this when I used to be bartending. People love to complain about things. Oh, this food's cold. This food is not right. This drink is too much like this, whatever the case may be. But if you genuinely did a good job and they say, hey, I'd like to talk to the manager, I want to, praise this person for the job that they did, that takes a lot of effort. So when someone gives you praise online for a great video, they mean it. And if someone's giving you shit for a video, it has everything to do with them, not you.
I second that very much.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's so yeah, that's like I said, I always have a hard time coming up with what I say after that. But yeah, I second that that notion, because I mean those negative comments, they stick with you for some reason, because that's just natural. But like you were saying with the positive comments, those are the ones to pay attention to. Because those are the people that you want around, right?
Yeah, because and when the negative comment affects you, and like they've affected me, like they even affected me last week when I got like an essay, and I'm like, God damn it, right? But just think of it like, I find that whenever I get, kind of upset with a negative comment, there's a small part of me inside that kind of agrees with it.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So once you kind of figure that out, and then you really work with it, like you get that thorn out of your heart or your soul or whatever. I don't want to get too spiritual on you, but like I found that anytime that I got a negative comment, and the ones that I could be like, oh, that's funny, I didn't agree with them, or I knew that wasn't true. But the ones where I'm like, oh, this really hurts, is that a part of me kind of agreed with it. But once you realize that and you're aware of that, then you're able to change yourself for the better.
Right.
And that's when it just becomes easier and easier and easier. It's never going to be 100% easy, but it will become much, much easier as time goes on.
Yes, it will. So I want to say thank you so much for joining up on the film journey, Brandon. Where can everyone find you?
Well, my main content is on YouTube at BrandoCritic, but you can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd, all at BrandoCritic. It's the same handle. Every movie that I watch, I will log on Letterboxd. But on Instagram and on Twitter is where I'll be posting about like, hey, here's a new video. And TikTok, it's still in an experimental phase right now. So nothing to see there quite yet. But giving some more things different looks.
I'll be leaving all those in the description down below. I know you have like a link tree, which I'll probably put there as well. So yeah, I want to say thank you once again for joining along on the film journey. This has been quite the treat, and I'm glad that the film journey is back, and I'm glad that You're doing well having a second channel now with the BrandoCritic Live now.
Right.
And I hope that, like it's one day old from when we're doing this. So,
Yeah.
I hope, to some good futures, right?
Right.
Thank you again for joining along, and I hope you enjoyed it. For everyone watching at home, I hope you enjoy the conversation, and we would love to engage with you. So if you want to, in the comment section, ask us some questions or engage with us down there. We would love to discuss with you different aspects of the video, and also make sure to follow Brandon down in the description down below. There's going to be all those links. It's been a lot of fun. So once again, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up, like, comment down below, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, all those things, and we'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.